Hello, welcome to Creative View Podcast. This is Catherine Kirby from Hanover, Pennsylvania. Everyone is welcome. My kitten is batting at this yarn. Let me see if he's feisty. So if he's in a feisty mood, if he wants to play and you go to touch him, you may get bit. Come on, you. Show everybody how nice you are. Come on. No, okay, no. We got him. Mary Whitener, if you're watching, hi, got him this pop-up tent. And it's like a little red thing, and it has holes in it, and he pops in and out. And this morning, the big cat came in from outside and thought, what is this thing? And looked down into this hole, and this little rascal came shooting up like a jack-in-the-box. And the big cat didn't know what to think. So this is a knitting and crocheting podcast, and it's also getting to know each other and Christian teaching and encouragement. And let me see if we can get him over here so you can see him. I don't want to grab him and get bit. I am wearing, you go. Hey, come here. Ah, see what I mean? I am wearing a top that someone else made, and I'm not sure what the pattern is. It's very pretty. It's done in a cotton yarn that has these little flecks of color. It was given to me. I like it a lot, and I haven't worn it because I was too heavy. So this is my second Dorel tee. Once this is blocked, you'll be able to see the design better than the variegated one I made. This is the picture. It's by Alison Green. It's a top down, easy to follow, but the person I'm making it for wants longer sleeves. And I don't know why sleeves seem to take so long. But you may not see this again because when I get it finished, I'm going to give it to her. I think it's an $8 pattern. It's easy to follow. I actually like to make another one for myself. Now, if I don't put this yarn away, you know who will get it. I have been missing all of you. It's been too long, and I want to hear from everybody and how you're all doing and everything. The next thing is, boy, I have so many things piled up. I might not be able to see it, so I'll just grab. I decided to make a long scarf on the machine. It's the only thing on the machine I did this time. This is a yarn that's discontinued. It was called Bonita. It's acrylic. It's fuzzy. I think the fuzziness kind of put people off, but it's really not all that fuzzy. This is a double hat with the purple inside. So if you fold it up for a child, you're going to get that. But I decided to make an adult scarf. I really didn't know how long. And it's on the machine, and I did 720 rows. I got a big long scarf. Oh my. So this is double, and I figure you would have to pretty much do almost a triple, because I still got a lot. My husband was looking at me like, are you crazy? But I don't think I realized just how long this thing was going to be. So I guess, I remember when I was a child, there was a book about a lady that was knitting, and it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Yeah, if I could get that figured out, I mean, this would be like a full-length coat scarf like people used to wear. But oh my, I mean, I can't rip it out at this point. It's just really big and something to smile about. Oh, we all have those pictures in our mind that make us smile. So I live in Pennsylvania, and we've been on a mosquito alert now for some time. I mean, you can't even really go out and walk the dogs because you get a dozen bites or more, and it's just not fun. Even just going from like the house to the car, you can get bit up. And the dogs are bringing in fleas, and then the cat has fleas. And so if you've never had a flea problem, years ago my pastor would put his big cat outside, hook him to the wash line pole so he could walk back and forth, and then he would bring him in and he would take a bowl and put a drop of dishwashing detergent in it and some water, and it would suds up, and then he had a flea comb, and if he found a flea he would drop it, and when they get trapped in the suds, they die. They start to sink. So I've been constantly flea combing. And, you know, the poor dogs, they were used to laying on their chairs, and now everybody has to lay on the floor. So, God put on my heart, and how does God do that? How does God put something on your heart? If you pray, and it's about Him and not about us, and you ask God, please share your heart with me. Please share your burdens with me. Please share what breaks your heart. God will put things on your heart. And we've been shipping to Indian reservations now for a while in Pine Ridge, South Dakota. And then they have different branches like the Bright Start, which is the little kids, the old age home. And there's a place, and they have an orphanage. You can go on YouTube and look up Pine Ridge. It is the second poorest area in the United States. They have the lowest lifespan in the United States. The only place that has a shorter lifespan is Haiti. And this is a great shame. And yet, most people I talk to don't share what God is feeling, what I'm feeling, that this shouldn't be. So I have a lot of wool yarn at the yarn shop that just didn't sell. We've had mild winters. The super bulky yarns have just sat. And so if you ask God to be with you in your projects you're making, if you ask Him things like you would ask a best friend, like, what color do you think? Or, well, you know, help me to be more creative, because I've always seen myself as a creative person. And yet the last few years, I'm just like a flatliner. I just sit there like, and I don't know why. I like to draw, I like to paint, and I just feel like I don't have the spark. And so I've asked God for things. And one of the things He said was, and how does He talk to you? It's a thought in your head, thought in your mind that you didn't put there, that you wouldn't have said, I'm going to take out all the non-machine-washable wool in my shop, and I'm going to make blankets 7 feet by 6 feet, God told me. And I think that's because the Indian people aren't real tall, but if it's 7 feet wide, you could have a few children in there with you. So this is my first one, and I just did magic knots. So if a color ended mid-row, I didn't waste the yarn. I just did the magic knot, and I just kept going. So this is super bulky yarn, or sometimes 2 chunkies held together. This is the other side. It is very heavy and very warm. And if I held up the whole thing, it would drag on the floor. And my thumbs and hands are sore. It was so fun. it's like people. You start out and maybe you have 3 friends or 3 women that are very much alike, and you're going along and thinking, oh, this is peachy, pinky, you're thinking purple, and then you do this. You put the yellow on with the gold, and you're like, oh, this is a completely different thing now. It's like you add one person and it's different. And there was a Rowan yarn, a chunky, but it had these little slubby things in it, and it was difficult to work with because they kept getting caught. But after it was done, it was pretty. And then I decided to just randomly, like when women make quilts, just keep going. Put in some solids, put in some, and there were some yarns that were my favorite to work with, and I won't get into all of them, but I really like the Ella Ray Lush Merino, the Jetafra Perulana, which I'm assuming is Peru and wool. And then I did some that were 2 colors together. And actually, when you put it out on the bed, my husband loved it, and he doesn't even like wool. And he spread it out on the bed, and he loved it. And this is a guy that always tells people he's allergic to wool. And I'm like, you're not allergic to wool. He's thinking of Vietnam and wool uniforms and things. That was all done in double crochet through both loops. I started another one with a yarn called Taki Gemini that is a chain yarn. And you find out that not all super bulkies are equal. Some are chunkier, some are lighter, but this would be more like someone that likes neutral colors. So I have 4 different colors, and then I'm going to do the cream colored stripes in between. And this yarn is not as heavy. I'm not doing this with a super big hook either because I want the stitches to be tight enough so that I've heard when 30-degree weather comes at Red Shirt, they'll just tape cardboard over holes in their trailers. That this could actually be used as insulation on a wall. So I only used an 8mm, and this one even smaller. I was talking to a lady that goes to Pine Ridge and Red Shirt, and after we talked, I was just kind of shell-shocked. So Red Shirt is in Hermosa, South Dakota. I think it's somewhere near the Badlands. It is isolated. They call it the Forgotten People. When it snows, nobody plows. They're 40 miles from everything. It's extreme poverty. Most of the people can't find jobs. If they do, the average income is $4,000 a year. I asked, do they have water and electricity? The utilities are monopolies. So to get water, it's a $4,000 hookup. And then the water's expensive. To get electricity, it's a $2,500 hookup, and it's very expensive. Most people have wood burning stoves, but they can't always afford wood. So I'm hoping that I find local women that will help me with the blankets. So this one I have downstairs. My husband wants to play a game or something. I can sit there and do a row or 2. This is the one that I work on in the car. And I did decide with this one, I am going to do a theme of pink and rosy colors throughout. So I'll always come back to some pinks, purples, that color family, instead of just doing kind of a patchwork. I have a lot of this Rowan Dig wool, which is really nice to work with, and a bunch of Galway, Plymouth Galway, but that's not a super bulky, so then it takes multiple. So that, and I hope to have, I hope not to take too long to do these. I finished the Snowdrifter Baby Blanket by Jessie Coppom. It's a very easy pattern. You can memorize it, and I wasn't sure, kind of stepped out to be adventurous to put this dark blue in. In fact, sometimes I look at it, it almost looks blue purple, and this lime color. And I got my, this is my third one. I finally got my design right. So I have 12 rows on the bottom, 12 on the top, and then 12 between. And while this is a cotton acrylic yarn called Euro Baby Soft Cotton Chunky. It's nice to work with, but the newer version splits, and I was so frustrated. And I kept thinking it was my hook, and I changed a hook and it wasn't the hook. And then I would struggle to get a whole row done. Either this would split or the stitch you were going into, and then I'd remember this row I changed to half double crochets. And then I'd get done this row and like, no, I did that half doubles. That's supposed to be double crochets. I was so relieved to get it done. So happy to get it done. It's soft, it's cuddly. And I was thinking that, little children go to bed and they like to put their hands through the holes and they like stories. So if they go to bed at 8, it's dark, God puts the moon out and the stars, and then they sleep until, let's say, 8. And you could kind of do a timeline that you wake up, or this could be like one whole day and you go to bed again. And I was thinking, what if I did one of these and I did blue for the ocean and I put little animals or turtles in it, and then I put a green blue for animals that are amphibians and can be in the sea or the water, and then I did green for animals that are just on the earth. I was working on this, and I really believe when you ask God to help you with your creativity that he does. This is how I was thinking. And then the last one would be the sky. It would be a different color of blue. You could put little birds on it, and you could make up stories while you're getting ready for bed. I just thought, I was just so happy just even thinking about it. The Snowdrifter Blanket by Jessie Coppom. It's a free pattern on Ravelry or her website. All right. That might be, I have projects at the yarn shop too. Oh, Arisu, I think that's how you say it. Excuse me 1 minute. Whoa. So you always have challenges in life. The yarn shop has been getting vandalized, having problems. So our house, we had an intruder. And then about 2 weeks ago, our neighbor saw somebody in my driveway, looking at my car, looking in my car, taking pictures of my car. my husband's friend recommended some cameras for the house and the shop, and that was an expense we weren't like counting on, but we found out they weren't going to work because you have to put them up at least 9 feet high, or the intruder can just, you know, take them out, hit them with a whatever. So then we got the doorbell ring things, and on Saturday, this is now Tuesday, yesterday was Labor Day, his friend came to the shop, just unscrewed the big sensor motion light out back, put that in, and then there were problems and more problems. And the Wi-Fi in the shop doesn't reach to the back door. And you have to have one for the front and one for the back. And I set up a password and then it wouldn't work for the other one. So today I had to call Comcast and say, help, please. Whoops. I think the last podcast I couldn't remember the name of this. It's a bottom up. I was thinking it'd be cute over a dress. I think I'll make the sleeves a little bit longer. So it has a lacy pattern. It's a pattern you have to buy. It's by Svetlana, Volkova. And I am doing this with Queensland United, which is a cotton wool blend. It sells for $8, and I think this top is only going to take 2. So you start at the bottom, you go in the round, you do your lace. For any of you that have trouble with lace, just know your boundaries. If you have, you know, a middle stitch and the yarn over is always before the middle stitch, you know that every time you get to the middle stitch, it's going to be the yarn over. Or you can put markers in between your row repeats. Then she tells you to put all of these on yarn or a holder. And I decided I wasn't going to do that. I left them on the needle, plugged it up, and just started knitting with the new needle, back and forth, back and forth. So this is the back. And it's actually going pretty fast, and the yarn is nice to work with. It's done on I think a 6 and a 7. So I wanted to put a little plug in here, excuse me 1 minute, for essential oils. Over the years, on and off, I would get interested in these, and then life was so busy as a family practice doctor, and I was so tired and in pain with fibromyalgia that these things would just sit. But if you want to get into it, I think the best thing is just take one at a time, buy one a month. They're not really that expensive. It'd be anywhere up to $10. Some companies, they're much more. This is 0.5 fluid ounces. You want to be careful if you go online, you see, oh, that one's only $6.99, but you might be getting 0.1 fluid ounce. Our local pharmacy sells these, and they used to be, I think, 9, and now they're 7. Tells me he's selling a lot more and he's passing the savings on. This is lavender. Just opening it up and taking a whiff rejuvenates you. But if you just use 1 drop, this will last you a long time. I've heard there can be 250 drops. I might be wrong, in a bottle. This is good for massage if you mix it with another oil. Another thing is bug bites and burns. Take a little ointment, Vaseline, whatever you have, mix in 1 drop, swirl it around. I had a burn on my arm, put it on, never even had any pain after that. Bug bites, 1 drop in the bathtub, you get a nice fragrant bath. you can make your own cleaning supplies with some white vinegar and drop of lavender oil, a drop of this oil or that. You can mix them up. You can spray them in the house. So the dogs had fleas. I found out that lavender, peppermint, there's other citronella. I just mixed up water with a drop of this, a drop of peppermint, and they didn't like being sprayed. So I would just dip a cloth in and then soothe their skin. I'll try to cover one each podcast. So before we get into 1 Samuel and Hannah, I love old books. This is called Climbing the Rainbow by Lloyd Ogilvie, I guess, Ogilvie. And there's a beautiful old hymn, "Oh, love that will not let me go. I rest my weary soul in thee. I give thee back the life I owe, that in thine ocean depths its flow may richer, fuller be. O joy that seeks me through pain, I cannot close my heart to thee. I climb the rainbow through the rain and feel the promise is not vain, that morning shall tearless be." Now, he wrote this, and it was supposed to be, "I trace the rainbow through the rain," which makes much more sense to me. And the church board made him change it to "I climb the rainbow." But I want to tell you the quick story about this. So it's late evening, June 6, 1882. And the pastor of this church in Scotland is sitting alone in the darkness of his study. He is blind. He's 40 years old. He emerged as one of Scotland's most brilliant preachers and compelling poets. He would get crowds flowing. But this particular night, he had an inner anguish, darkness. It had been a long day. His sister had gotten married, and she had been his eyes all through learning, all through college, all through seminary. She had even learned Latin, Hebrew, and Greek so she could read to him. And with her assistance, he had been a brilliant student, graduating with the highest honors the University of Glasgow had to award. She accompanied him through his ministry, wrote out his sermons, reading them back to him until he had memorized them. And now she got married. And what was he going to do without her? He took a steamer after the wedding from Glasgow to another city, and he said, "Something happened to me which was known only to myself and caused me the most severe mental suffering." So he wrote this hymn out of his suffering and mental anguish. He said it was the quickest work I've ever done in my life. It's just like the Holy Spirit came upon him and he just wrote this. So go to YouTube and type in "O love that wilt not let me go" and listen to this beautiful hymn. I have two versions and they're very different as far as how fast or how slow they do it. You would almost think it wasn't the same. His friends said it was no mere mundane rainbow that was envisioned, any more than rain, meaning sorrow, means physical rain. Tracing the rainbow through the rain, you know, when you're crying, it's almost like rain. And God sends a rainbow of promise. I apologize that it's been so long since the last podcast. I am going to do it better because it bothered me that it was a whole month to finish Hannah. If you missed chapter 1 of 1 Samuel, please go back to the last podcast at the end of the video. If you're not familiar with the Bible, hang in because it is so beautiful and it will change you from the inside out. Now, some of you felt that this was a grief, a sorrow, unbelievable to Hannah to take this child that she had asked God for, this cute little boy, and take him to Shiloh and leave him there. I don't think so. Did you ever knit or crochet something that took so much time and you were just busting to give it to that person? You just couldn't wait for their birthday or for Christmas or to see their expression, or a quilt you made. Or what about money? You know, a family's house burnt down or whatever. A pastor has a need for whatever, and you're working extra hours and you're saving, and you finally get it saved up and you just can't wait to go and give it. And it's all to bring glory and honor to God. And I believe that this is how it was for Hannah. I believe that she had prepared little Samuel for this since he was small, that he was going to have an important job. Yesterday, we went to visit friends of ours who they seem Amish, but I believe it's Brethren. They have a son who's 11, and then a girl that's 9, I think 7, 4, a little boy, and then a little boy in heaven. And these girls, they can work. They cleared the dishes, and they're already at the sink doing dishes. They were cutting vegetables with sharp knives. They were just amazing. And the oldest, who was 9, she, as I was leaving, am I ever going to be able to find it? Excuse me 1 minute. I'm probably not, but give me 1 minute here. She went to the garden and she arranged these for me and she gave them to me. And aren't they beautiful? And she even put a fancy bow on. And then as I was leaving, she gave me a pot holder that she made. And I don't even know if she knows I love dogs, but she gave me that. And her mother just has these children raised to love to work. And the little one, who's almost 3, he said, "What's my job?" It was so cute. So I believe that Hannah prepared Samuel for this special job. So when she had weaned him, she took him up with her, and she took the animal offerings, and she went to Eli the priest. We talked about that. And chapter 1 says, and he, little Samuel, worshiped the Lord there. Now we're going to do Hannah's prayer. And Hannah prayed. And if you read the Psalms, you will see that she quoted scriptures. My heart rejoices in the Lord. Mine horn, that's your strength. My horn is exalted in the Lord. Now you remember, she lived with the other wife, Penuel, who taunted her because she was barren. And I believe that children learn from their mother. And Hannah was not only ridiculed by Penuel, but Penuel's children as well, treating her terribly. My horn is exalted in the Lord. My mouth is enlarged over my enemies. You know, when your enemies are pressing in on you, you get very quiet. If you've ever worked with somebody who taunts you and teases you and makes fun of you day in and day out, you get very quiet. My mouth is enlarged over my enemies because I rejoice in your salvation, God's salvation. And you know, some people think that salvation just means, oh, I'm going to heaven. No, salvation is an everyday thing. We need salvation every day. There is none holy as the Lord, for there is none beside you, neither is there any rock like our God. Talk no more so exceedingly proudly. Let not arrogance come out of your mouth, for the Lord is a God of knowledge, and by him actions are weighed. I heard a man say that he died and went to heaven, and he came back, and he said, don't think you know anything. God knows how many blades of grass there are in the earth. You don't know anything up beside God. The bows of the mighty men are broken, and they that stumbled are girded with strength. They that were full have hired themselves out for bread, so that they that are hungry ceased. So the barren has borne 7, and she that had many children is waxed feeble. And I think history says that the other wife stopped bearing children. But Hannah had 5 children after this. The Lord kills and makes alive. He brings down to the grave and brings up. The Lord makes poor and makes rich. He brings low and he lifts high. He raises up the poor out of the dust and lifts up the beggar from the dunghill. You know, if you go to my Facebook page, and it's open to the public, it's just Catherine Kirby, I posted a music video by Kathy Tricoli. Years ago, we saw her in concert, and she has a song, When I Look at You. And they took scenes from the Gospel of Matthew movie, 1993, and they put them into this song. And at the end of the song, Bruce Marciano, who's playing Jesus, is going to heal Bartimaeus, the beggar by the roadside. And he said they literally just took 2 beggars from the roadside and put one in the movie. He said you could smell them 30 feet away. They were dirty. Who knows what kind of what they had on their hands. And the director told him, when you heal his eyes, he's gonna reach out and he's gonna touch your face. And Bruce is thinking, oh no. And he said, and I hope you watch this, it made me cry, that when acting as Jesus, he healed this beggar, he was so taken with being poor, being in the dust, being in the dirt, being covered with bugs. Not the life you want for your child. He was so overcome with this. And when this child put his hands up, he kissed him and he said, I wept on his shoulder and they had to pull me off. I hope you watch it. I post all these amazing Christian things on my Facebook page and nobody's looking at them. And so I open them all to the public. He raises up the poor out of the dust and lifts up the beggar from the dunghill. And there are beggars living on dunghills, to set them among princes and to make them inherit the throne of glory. For the pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he has set the world upon them. It's another argument there. While we're not a ball floating around up there, he will keep the feet of his saints, and the wicked shall be silent in darkness. So now her mouth has enlarged over her enemies, but her enemies are silent. For by strength shall no man prevail. I love it where she says, I laugh at my enemies. I smile now at my enemies. It's like she has a secret. God bless me. God loves me. The adversaries of the Lord shall be broken into pieces. Out of heaven shall he thunder upon them. The Lord shall judge the ends of the earth, and he shall give strength unto his king and exalt the horn of his anointed. What a prayer. I believe the Holy Spirit came upon her, and this prayer is preserved forever. And I believe that Samuel actually said, bye, Mom, or bye, Mother, or bye, Mommy. I honestly don't think it was a sorrowful thing for her. She knew she would see him again and again when they went to the feast days, and she would make him clothes. So take some time and read that. That's 1 Samuel chapter 2. And her prayer has in it the elements of how we should pray. Praise. My heart rejoices in the Lord. That's praise. There's none holy as the Lord. There's none besides you. Is there any rock like our God? She is praising. Then she is thanking him that he answered her prayer. She is preaching against the wicked, right? And it's just beautiful. Beautiful. So, if you want, well, it does say, if you go up to verse 20, and Eli the priest blessed Elkanah and his wife and said, the Lord give you seed of this woman for this loan that is lent to the Lord. And they went into their home. And the Lord visited Hannah, so she conceived, and she bare 3 sons and 2 daughters. And the child Samuel grew before the Lord. And he becomes the most important man in Israel, even more important than King Saul. Okay, I think that's it. I'm trying to do shorter time and do it more often and share with you things in the scripture that I think are beautiful. All right, shine, baby, shine, shine for the Lord, and I'll see you the next time, and thank you for joining me.